All right, everybody, welcome back to episode 89 of the Light Warriors Unleashed podcast. And whew, this was a potent, aligned, flow-like interview that I got to do. And maybe it's not even an interview, we'll call it this beautiful expanded connection within hearts and the opening of the possibility. And Jessica and I dive into so many dimensional energies in connection with the feminine embodiment, the feminine energy, the dark feminine energy. We use the word toxicity to some degree inside the space of like the toxic feminine movement, but the real claiming and reclaiming and remembering the energy of the potency inside of each of us. We go into womb work and we talk about the connection of flow and creativity through the feminine energy and how we are being called forward to remember the power within us. And Jessica is, oh my gosh, you will know exactly what I mean when you start to listen. It's like she's this ribbon of tapestry. And we have done multiple lifetimes together, just meeting literally to record this podcast. I feel so connected into her world that I'm like, this is a powerful, powerful conversation. And I love it. You know, she does amazing, beautiful stuff in the world. She holds ceremonies. She, does programs on remembrance of the feminine energy. She's an erotica educator as well, she calls herself. And it's just, this is a pure conversation of love, of divineness, of devotion, of eroticness, of all things. So I can't wait to serve you up in episode 89 of the Light Warriors Unleashed podcast. Okay, this is going to be juicy and this is going to be fun. And I am so excited, Jessica, to have you on the podcast today to chat about all these beautiful expanded experiences we're about to move through. And based on what we were just chatting about in the back end, before we hit record, this is going to be a really powerful, intuitive, connected conversation. So let's jump right in. Let's just jump right into the space of, and what has been happening for you that you've been noticing in the field with women these days and our movement through embodiment practices, sexuality, intuition, all of it. Start from wherever you feel called and let's roll.
Thank you. Thanks for this beautiful space and this invitation and the beautiful warm welcome into this space of the feminine and what that means, and this rise of the feminine and this movement that is happening. And I just wanted to first say thank you as well to you for providing this space for women. I know it's not just for women, but for women to share their voices around this, because that's one of the suppressed aspects of the feminine, is the voice is in hiding. And so you're providing this space, this platform, in order for us women in leadership, or just women who are really know their voice and know their purpose. You're giving this platform for us to share and to speak out, especially in a world that really honors that we're still playing these old systems. Old systems are still in place of logic, of disconnection, of separation, of things needing to make sense all the time. And this really creates a disassociation in the body for women. It creates a sense of disconnection with our true selves. And part of reclaiming our feminine essence is being willing, this willingness to move through a lot of these old concepts, old ideas, old ways of living and being, where everything is told and everything is shown to us, and how to live, how to be a mother, how to be a woman, how to be in relationships, how to do love. And so this has really created so much stress in the body. And so for us women, there's a deep desire to really step into their power and to start enjoying this beauty and love and radiance that is sourced from within. And that only happens when we step into the embodiment of our truth, of our soul. And I think women these days, which I love, are starting to seek ways in doing
Yeah.
this. And that's the other thing. Y- we have so much information coming at us. How do we do all of this? How do we be in
Mhm.
embodiment? How do we be in alignment? How do we step into our power? How do we know love? How do we walk into a relationship knowing our worth? Yeah, all of these
Mhm.
ideas and concepts are important, but the true piece of embodiment, I feel, is missing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what we're being called to step into in this modern world, because women are done. We're done with feeling this sense of feeling unheard,
Mm.
feeling dysregulated in the nervous system, done
Yeah.
with attracting relationships that are not making us feel whole and safe and
Mhm.
beautiful and flourished.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's where women are today. And we're being
Mhm.
called as well to step into this space of owning our wild expression in our
Yeah.
authentic way, and
Yeah.
not in the way that we see being fed to us that sexuality or sensuality is. I'm
Yeah.
really feeling like women are desiring to know what sexuality feels like for them in a way that feels true to them and in a way that feels aligned to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is yeah, I'm like, I think we should breathe into this for a second because it almost feels like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, like, and this
Oh,
is,
yeah.
and I could feel the energy from the people listening. And, obviously in spirituality, everything's happening at once. So it's like someone's listening to this while we're recording this in actual time and space. And I can feel that someone just took a breath in that went, she gets me. Like she gets what I'm trying to move through. And a couple of places I want to take this right now, because I feel like in the past, in our past experiences, ancestral lineages, the witches, the medicine women, the indigenous women embodied the energy of this and then were chastised and burned at the stake and, put into places and all these dynamics. Just so you know, too, the power went out in the middle of you talking. So in case you're like, why are you in the dark now? Because the power's out. Like, but we have the
I'm
internet
just
still, which is
flowing with
amazing.
it.
Yeah,
The
like just roll
spirit
with
is
me.
there.
Just roll with me. So these past experiences laid a foundation in the energetic field for women owning their voice and stepping in. And then we became the rebels throughout the years of trying to reclaim it back. All of the people that were out speaking out and the women that were, the tyrants and the ones that were the trailblazers trying to bring the voice back into the woman and into humanity. A lot of them did it through the masculine, though, because that's how they felt they had to show up. But we're now at this point of this evolution in our in our divine connection and inside of us that is calling us forward back into our embodied feminine, like you had mentioned. So tell me a little bit about this pathway that you've been seeing, because this is the work you do. This is who you are in your mission on earth, and bringing my body's in goosebumps as I just say that to you, and bringing this out through voice and communication, right, into the world. What are you seeing in connection with some of this work that you've been doing in the world? Just like super curious.
With women, do you mean, when working
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah,
women?
with women. Yeah. Yeah. Like in all the
Yeah.
past life stuff, because the spiritual side to you is connected to that. So I'm sure you've gotten downloads of like the reclaiming of the energy that we used to live within in that purity back in whatever landscape of time that we used to do it. But then they were taking us out all the time. And, I'm sure most of the people in my world have been a witch or labeled a witch sometime in their past lives and got burned at some stake or beheaded or, put into
Mm.
jail or, like removed from society inside of that space because they were embodying the power of the feminine energy, which was then dampened by all this dynamic in the world. And, I could call out some of the infrastructures that
Yeah.
dampened all that, but it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter in the essence of this. It just happened, like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I really feel what you're saying. The first thing that was coming through me as you were speaking to this was
Mm-hmm.
community.
Mm,
And that's why I've moved from doing things solo into working with women in group settings now, and
mm,
holding these spaces of ceremony with women in groups, because women were sitting together in spaces in resonance and
right.
coming
Mm,
together with their own gifts. You and I I can already tell we have very, very similar purposes, and our the root of it, the foundation of it is the same, which is love,
mm,
but the
mm-hmm.
expression of it is so different. Our temples are
Yeah,
so different. The way we express it is different. And women were doing this. They were sitting together. There was no competition. There was no comparing. It was,
mm,
how can I support you in this? How can
right.
your expression, because your soul lives within your body, how can we
Yeah,
now bring that to life? Because when we do this together in
right.
sisterhood, this is how
Mm,
we create those ripple effects. This is how we start to create shifts around us. And there's no force around that, like you mentioned
mm,
with feminism, the movement of that. And although I feel very grateful that that happened, because it
of course.
there a lot of changes and shifts happened during that time, and it gave permission for modern women to start feeling liberated, but it was still coming from that place of this toxic masculinity, as you
Hmm.
mentioned, this great
Yeah.
place of anger. Not that anger is bad, but when it's expressed from that place of misalignment and toxicity,
Yeah.
it doesn't do any good. It does more harm. It creates violence. It creates that separation. And so, with women desiring to come back into this essence of the feminine and this power of what the feminine provides us, there comes a sense of community and
Mm,
love and resonance and coming together and speaking out. And even you just saying that, me sharing in the beginning, you felt that someone really listening to this really felt what I was saying. And that's that true essence of resonance. So when I see women sharing
yeah.
in my group sessions, in my ceremonies, I just see that deep sense of belonging with each other, that,
Hmm.
oh, I'm not alone in this world. My story connects. We are all interconnected here. We are all one
Yeah.
together. And at the same time, we all come with our own beautiful essence and expression. And so
Yeah.
I think if we come back into this sense of true self leadership and self sovereignty, we realize
Mm,
that there's no competition. And that's
yes.
really been playing out big in our
Yeah.
society. And I
It
think more
is.
so now, it's, with
Hmm.
social media, but it doesn't need to be like that. We can come together
Yeah.
like this and share our
Yeah.
gifts and just be held deeply in the love and the space by one another, and yeah, and share. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, and I'm on the exploratory journey as well of remembering the purity of the feminine essence within me. And when I look back on relationships, so I'm single at this moment of time. And I just literally had this conversation this morning because one of my clients was like, where are you in the spectrum of your relationship, like opening of that? And I said, I'm really working within being conscious because I used to drive relationships. I used to go for what I wanted. I was the independent driver, hustler. Like I would go gather what I wanted. If I wanted that in life, I'd go get it. Now I'm in the space of my man is a very driven masculine man who wants a feminine embodied woman, which I am. However, I played the mask of needing to be this way. And so now I'm like, how do I surrender in and invite him into my energy without masculinely going to get him, you know? So this is the play I'm playing in right now in the energy field of being able to really know who I am, understand the purpose, and I hold power, I hold truth. I'm a light warrior, you know, I dismantle conformity. Like I have a very edgy drive, but I also have this flowing energy that moves through me that I've yet to show somebody in the purity of all of that intimately. And so it's been neat to watch it all. You know, self-awareness is obviously one of the key dynamics to this whole mechanism, and watch how I'm working through this and reclaiming it and, you know, bringing it back into who I am. And the way you verbalize it is like this. I just see this tapestry. When you talk, it's like it moves in this flow of a ribbon. And I'm like, how do I bring the ribbon into my energy field now to kind of like use it as an essence of like movement? And it's just like, it's amazing to see, feel, be in connection with women, especially. Not to say that men aren't important, but in this conversation we're having right now, that hold this. Now obviously you lead within this, so therefore you integrate already, or else you wouldn't authentically be able to teach it. We know that from, you know, a spiritual perspective of energy, you know, because if we're not it, then we're teaching in distortion, and that's not our jam. So I want to recognize that your flow, like how you just show up in this conversation, it's beautiful to like feel you and to watch you, and I can feel the movement of what you're creating in the world, you know, and how this moves through, and the creation meaning like the creation of the energy portal for women to be able to step in to create in their own way too, which I think is like a really, really cool thing. So yeah.
Thank you so much for saying that. That really deeply landed in my heart and my womb. And
Mm,
the funny thing is that that piece of me has been my dark feminine, the part of me that
mm,
was in that I shamed for so long because it was
mm,
so deeply misunderstood and
yeah,
didn't make sense. It went in different directions. Um, and so I've had to do a lot of work in really anchoring into my own presence and
mm,
worth and allowing that dance to just flow through me. So thank you
yeah,
for pointing that out. And that is what the relationships are about. It is that dance, that
yeah,
fluid dance between your beloved and you, or the beloved in yourself and you,
yes,
and dancing with the masculine and feminine. We're so caught up in these words, masculine, feminine. How do I be more feminine? How does he be more masculine? And
mm,
right now I'm feeling them both moving between us, you
yeah,
know, because there's a great deep presence and awareness and stillness. But then at the same time, I'm feeling this beautiful movement, like you mentioned, this dance
yeah,
that's happening around us, and it's circulating, but it's not leaking out. We're
right.
holding the energy in,
Yeah.
and that's the dance, right?
That's the dance. Yeah. It's a beautiful, and it happens in all aspects of our life. So not just relationally or within ourselves, but all of it, like how we move
Mm.
within the world, how we show up in our world, like all of it is that dance. I want to read
Yeah.
you, if you're okay to speak about this, like the dark feminine energy movement, because there's some toxicity that's in the field within this dark feminine energy movement. And then there's the embodied part of the duality within all of us. And I'd love to just hear your thought process to speak into this, because I think it's going to lead us into, like, I definitely want to make sure we tap on the womb stuff and yoni and the whole mechanism of that portal, I call it, because I see it as such. But tell me about like your movement, if you're open to sharing that, or what you're seeing in the collective with this dark feminine energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there is a real great um,
Mm-hmm.
conception, misportrayal around what the feminine really is, and that she has to be this um, perfect, beautiful, flowing, divine goddess who always
Yeah.
looks so lovely and soft and, you know, and it
Mm-hmm.
just, that's okay. That is one aspect, one element
Yeah.
of the feminine, but the dark feminine is where the real gold lies. And this
Yeah.
is going back to what you were saying before the patriarchal times when,
Mhm.
women were gathering, wise women, medicine women, priestesses,
Mm.
erotic, wild women, and I can go on, doulas, healers, and that they were gathering and sharing their medicine. And it was these aspects that were destroyed, I think, which
Yeah.
created separation in all of us. We all have this
Mm.
within us.
Mhm.
And one role takes on, I think, a little bit more than the others within us. I
Yeah.
feel like my whole lineage is around the priestess and working
Mhm.
around sacred sexuality. And so these pieces that were forgotten about became hidden. They were hidden.
Yeah.
Became part of our dark feminine there, and waiting for us to switch that light back on, because that's where our
Mm.
real gifts lie. So these
Right.
dark
Mm.
elements show up in places of shame,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's a deep one for most of us women.
Yeah.
Shame in our sensuality, shame in our sensual expressions and our connection with our body, shame in sexuality, shame in using our voice. And
Mm.
at the end of the day, they're all intertwined with one another. And so, it's held deep within our wombs. They're not toxic traits. And that's the thing I think that gets lost, is the dark feminine is not something that is toxic. They
Yeah.
can be manifested as toxic if we are not truly tapping into them, or we're forgetting
Mm.
about them. They can be manifested in ways of disempowerment, or
Right.
going into relationships from a needy
Just
place.
all of
I
it.
need
Yeah.
a grasping, holding on, which is the opposite to what you were saying.
Right.
Wanting to go into the relationship feeling that sense of receptivity and receiving him. We can go into, I don't know, it can manifest in ways of feeling unworthy, or feeling that anxiousness, and that we need to latch on to our desires. We need to control every situation. And so
Mm.
they're not pieces of the dark feminine. They're manifested as toxic. I don't want to say toxic.
Mhm.
That's not fair to say. Let's say hurtful
Yeah.
expressions to our soul self.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Toxic is so, I don't know, it's
Mhm.
flown out there too much, I feel. So just
I get you.
um yeah, you get me, you get me. And
I
so
get you.
looking at the dark feminine, we can start to take back our power by diving into those places of where we feel shame around our sexuality and our expression, and how we show up in that as
Yeah.
well. And it's usually tied to the desire to be seen, or the desire to be heard. I feel
Mhm.
that's where a
Yeah.
lot of the shame comes. There's that shame, and then there's that desire behind it, a
Yeah.
desire to be seen, a desire to be heard. And there's the other dark feminine of the fear of using our voice, the fear of shining our
Mhm.
light, the fear of using your gifts, of the fear of tapping into your spiritual gifts, the fear of
Right.
using your body in a way that um, is very receptive and soft, and not necessarily seeing the feminine as a weakness, right? Anyway, I can continue going into this. I think that I hope that answered some of your
Yes.
question. Yeah.
Well, we're seeing, like, just like everything in the duality world, we're seeing, extremes in certain parts of things. Like people are moving all the way over here and then they're all the way over here. And I love the way that you brought it into here, togetherness of like this movement. Because every single one of us has the duality within us, light, dark, masculine, feminine, everything. It's like a law on earth of duality. It's just a thing. That's what it is. Right. And so I love the way you describe that flow of the power being in there.
Mm.
And while you were talking, I'm thinking about like Kali Ma, and I'm thinking about Durga, and I'm thinking about, the goddesses in ancient lineage that held both. They were the receivers of the love, the light, and the truth, and they were also the givers of whatever needed to happen. We need to take out that demon, we need to go move that through. And they became into a space of like literally, here I am.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
that's the embodiments that we have in us, that's rooted in every single person on earth, including obviously women inside of the space. So I love
Yeah.
the visualization that I was getting while you were talking. And it's like, we look at it from a surface level and think it's bad, or think it's like, oh my God, you're disconnected. Or like you had said, like we have to be these airy fairy flow all the time. And sometimes that serves us and we want to be, and we move within that and it feels good for us to do that. But it's like the essence of the power we hold inside of us. Like there's something about me that wants
Oh,
to start to take tactile training, like that actually wants to go in and learn how to move my body in a tactile way. What's wrong? A puppy in a tactile
aw.
way. So it's interesting to watch that because it's the duality within, and it's about how do I hold the strength as well as the flow within. So it's, yeah, I love it.
Oh, you said that so beautifully. And that's a lot of the things that I'm seeing with women. I bring a lot of erotic movement into my spaces. And
Mhm.
so that's one of the ways that I feel like women they inquire what is happening. They start to realize their power once they dismantle a lot of that perfectionism and that
Right,
control, the facade that they need to
right.
hold on
Yeah,
to look a certain way. Because
yeah,
with erotic wild movement, you need
yeah,
to let go. We need to come into this space of letting our hair down, connecting with the earth, connecting with the body, touching ourselves in ways that feels a little bit dangerous and edgy, and
yeah,
going to those spaces where we've told that it's wrong. That's not what a good girl does.
yeah,
That's not what
yeah.
a perfect girl does, or a girl who's acceptable in society. And so when I see women are really good at following steps and doing the right thing. But when I ask them to let go, like really let go, open your mouth, make those sounds, come on the ground, roll on the ground,
Yep.
there's a lot of letting go that needs to happen in those
Oh,
spaces, and
yeah.
it requires safety. So I there's a
Yeah.
lot of focus on safety, um,
Mhm.
that needs to happen, safety with your own presence, and coming into that space of, yeah, groundedness and resilience. I
Mhm.
can hold myself in that place of messiness, and
Right.
I can see, and I'm strong enough, as you were saying, powerful enough to go to those unknown places and allow my body, allow my emotions to go to those places that don't make sense, or that feel really rageful, or feel messy, or feel ugly. And I think that's, yeah, so needed in these spaces of
Yeah.
claiming our dark feminine, because your darkness has it carries codes. These codes sit
Mhm.
within our cells, in our
Mhm.
body, in our womb, in our heart. And when we tap into those codes, we start to realize and awaken to
Yeah.
ancient pieces of us and
Yeah.
wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Things that we've
Yeah.
lived
Yes.
through from lifetimes. We awaken those gifts and our voice opens up. So there's so much
It,
medicine
mhm.
that we can awaken to when we do dive into the dark
Yeah.
feminine, and let go of that need to be perfect and beautiful and pretty all the time. And the beauty does arise, as we know, through the
Yeah.
murkiness, like the lotus flower, right? Grows and
Mm.
blooms through the darkness.
Yeah. And it's like
Yeah.
no happenstance, that a lot of the ancient goddess, priestess, feminine embodied like examples that we have in the past were connected so deeply to the lotus flower. Like, and even now, like in Costa Rica, it's like we we can get blue lotus here, and we can get it in form of like tea. We
Mm.
can get it in form of the actual flowers to use ceremoniously. And it's interesting that I haven't connected the dots until right now, this very moment of time, as to the power of the land here. Like, and the power of what it's bringing up inside of me and not even anyone else I know, this beautiful availability for our own expansion in all the ways. And I have blue lotus and I have it in tincture. I also have it in actual flowers. And I'm like, I think I need to go into ceremony with this. And I will. So thank you for opening that up for me. But just looking
Yeah.
at this, and one thing I want to state, like in connection with this, is that every single, if it's already in you, then it's meant for you to bring forward. And our job is remembering, like you've mentioned a few times, remembering this. It's not outside of us, and it's not something to be shamed about. It is this deep rooted connection in here. Right. And it's like, yeah, such a powerful, powerful place to be. Yeah.
Oh, that just felt so good in my body. Yes. This sense of remembrance, coming home. My program is called Feminine Remembrance, Come Home to Yourself. So this is just so
So
in
funny.
alignment. I love it.
So
Going
funny. Well, yeah, go ahead. Mhm.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I love your little like your analogy of the flower, and I'd love to know later on what that means for you and comes up for
Mm,
you, because for me, I'm really connected with the rose. I work a lot with
mhm,
the rose, the sacred rose.
mhm.
My lineage, I feel like, is connected with the Magdalene
I was
lineage.
just gonna say, like
So
Mother Mary too, probably. Yeah.
yeah, and Mother
She's
Mary,
the
yeah,
mother of
but there's
roses,
this.
they call her. But yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I feel you're right, I work with both of them. I actually called both of them in actually
Yeah.
before we started this talk today, Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, to bring in their love and their power, to hold the
Mhm.
space for us. But this rose, it just reminds me of this essence of the feminine and the
Yeah.
idea of opening, like our vagina, our pussy
Mhm.
opens when she's ready to receive. The flower opens when she's ready to receive the bees, to receive her nectar. And
Mhm.
so it works in the same way. And so I just always come back to this analogy of, what would the rose do? How does she open? She opens so effortlessly,
Mhm.
and she opens to reveal her beauty and to reveal her unique scent and her expression. There's no force, but she's standing strong, and those thorns are there protecting her heart and protecting her energy at the same time. So yeah, these, I feel like flowers really help us connect
Yeah.
deeply to the earth as well, and to the divine. So I love that you brought that up as well.
It's
Yeah.
it's not a coincidence, we're gonna call it, because literally this week, I channeled a light language transmission from Mary Magdalene quite a while ago, a few months ago, for quantum healing and to activate it inside of someone, as well as to use it as a tool inside of their own bodies. And 2 days ago, I literally sent it to three of my one-to-one clients, and it hasn't come up in my field a lot recently. So the fact that you're bringing the rose up and Mary Magdalene is like all
Wow.
aligned. It's like, yeah, she taps
Wow.
into me a lot. Like I work with her energy in just like, it's almost like I see the walk of life with her, meaning like she walks beside me in life, and
Mm.
not even intentionally seeing that, but I just am hearing it right now. Like she's always with all of us, of course. And, but those of us, I think, that are really doing work that is against the normal infrastructures, she's here. She's here. And yeah, it's a really powerful,
Mm.
powerful energy to be in. It's cool.
Mm.
Really cool.
She's
Love that.
really helping us to tap into this courage
Mhm.
as well,
Yeah.
and to find that compassion within ourselves and compassion for others who are just not ready for this, ready for these transmissions, not ready for this wisdom, because it takes a
Yeah.
lot of courage to walk into these spaces, because it means a lot of changes need to occur, and disruption
Oh,
around old paradigms. So yeah, she really does offer us the courage to use our voices. So yeah, I love that. She's
oh.
here with us right now. I can feel her. It's so beautiful. And
It
as you were
is.
saying that, I was envisioning both of us actually sitting in a
Yeah.
temple together, leading
Oh my God. Whew.
priestess circle. I had this vision, and I think, wow,
Yeah.
that's
So, oh, my body's in
beautiful.
goosebumps. So
Yes.
we'll see how this is great. Like, so just so you guys know, Jessica and I just met today. So our souls called to each other and we responded to the call. And here we are recording a podcast together, discovering more of who we are in the essence of this. So it's actually really fun to watch and feel in real time how life connects us when we continue to follow the call and continue to be in alignment and just trusting the pathway, right?
Yeah.
It's really
And
fun. I
diving
literally,
deeper,
yeah,
deeper. Sorry, just to say,
yeah,
like, I just had this,
no,
we continue to peel those petals away, and it just never ends. And we keep revealing more and more of ourselves and who we are. And it's a never ending, beautiful reveal of love
yeah,
in this
yeah.
presence. So, yeah, just to add to that.
No, and
Yeah.
it's like, it's so funny. I literally am halfway through an email sending out to my email list about change and about how change, we resist it sometimes as humans, but we also some days embrace the change. And I love how you brought the picture of that disruption energy and disrupting the paradigms through change. And I went, oh, that's what's supposed to be in there too. Cause I had enough time to write the email, but then I got distracted with other things. So I know why, cause the completion wouldn't have happened in the energy of what was actually being desired to come through without this conversation in the middle. So it's actually really fun. Like all of it, when we
Oh.
keep following this. It's so funny. Yeah. So great. I love it.
And that's the resonance, right? That's the
Right.
resonance I was talking about, and how the
Yeah.
divine can, when you're open to feeling into that resonance, the synchronicities and the blessings and
Mm,
the answers begin to reveal itself without you trying
yeah.
to look for it. You could have been
Yeah.
sitting there for hours trying to think, what else, what else, what else do I need to
Yeah.
include in this email? But then the universe, the divine, or source, whatever we want to call it, came in and said, oh, okay, this was another piece. And it's that, also that element of listening, because so often
Mhm.
we're receiving, but we're never really truly listening, well, unless we're anchored in and connected. Yeah.
Yeah. So good. This is so fun. And I call it the adventure of life. Like I love every day. And even when we're in, let's say, different energies that we don't desire to be in doing the work, it's like, there's still this beautiful, like, availability that we have to kind of connect the dots and move it through and connect in deeper. So fun.
Yeah.
So fun.
Yes.
So I
Because
definitely want to lead you. Yeah, go ahead. No, finish the thought and then we'll move.
I could go on and on though, but I was just going to say, for a very long time in my life, I was not connecting the dots. And I think for a lot of us, we can um, agree to that in some way or another. And that came through me attracting relationships that were not serving my highest good, because I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening to my heart. I wasn't listening to my pussy, to my womb, to the messages of my own soul, and getting stuck in those old ways, of staying comfortable, or staying in what I thought was normal. And that normal for me was
Mm,
staying in those spaces of disconnection and not feeling safe. And so and not knowing my worth. And so through that, I was attracting relationships, and I was staying in those relationships that were just not meant for me, obviously. I'm in a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
relationship now, but it took me relationship after relationship, pattern after pattern,
Totally
those
get it.
cycles repeating, right? We all know, until it gets louder and louder and you just get to that breaking point. And that's usually what happens. We enter that dark night of the soul where we know we can't do it anymore. And that's when things, that something has to shift, something has to change, and that you have to start listening. And we need to
Yeah.
stop listening to the advice and the thoughts of everyone else coming in, and just start trusting your own
Mm-hmm.
wisdom and the answers, and to know what makes you feel anchored and safe and flourished from within.
Yeah.
So,
So great.
mm,
So great. And you brought it up, and this is where I was going to lead you. So this is like a perfect movement
yeah.
into this. I want to talk about the womb work, because this is a key, I feel, in our connection to our own self and our own divine alignment. And it's not like our bodies just happened to have a womb. It's like we were purposely created with this beautiful energy. And I'd love for you to just dive into that a bit, in connection with the women's power, in connection with some of the work you do, because I think this is a pivotal conversation for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it really is. And I feel like this is where the work of the feminine really needs to begin. And
Mm,
yeah, we can do all the mindfulness work. It's needed, but for us women, we really need to descend down into
mm,
the heart, down into the womb, down into our vagina, our pussy, and know that this is where our power really occurs. And at the same time, this is where we've felt the most disconnected, because it is
mm,
the scariest, I think. And
mm-hmm.
this is where a lot of our pain and our hurt has been for centuries, because it is so misunderstood, and it's not logical. How can womb work be a thing when it doesn't make sense? There's no logic to it. And that's the thing. The
Yeah,
womb speaks to us in so many strong, beautiful, mystical ways, but not in ways that we know, not in the ways of the mind. The mind loves to work in logic and organizing and
right.
planning and making sense. The womb doesn't work like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I love that we are slowly waking up to this. And I feel like this is the new paradigm that we're walking into, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that can be tapped into in different ways. And for me, I started to work. Whoa, sometimes I forget how old I am. I'm like, was it only 5 years ago? No, I think it was 15. So I
I love
forget
it.
how
It's like
far.
there's no timelines in our world, like it's just like, yeah, no timelines.
Whatever. Like,
Whatever, it's
oh
all good.
man, that was.
So funny.
I
I
still
love it.
feel like the 90s was 10 years ago, but um,
It wasn't.
anyways, whenever it was, a decade or so ago, I started to dance samba, Brazilian samba, and
Mm,
I danced samba for 10 years. It became my love language. It became my everything, because not only did I dance this beautiful sensual dance, but it awakened something within
I
me.
bet it did. Yeah.
And it's because a lot of the movement is focused on the hips. Now, I didn't know
Yes.
this at the time, but it
Mm,
led me to inquiring further.
mhm.
Curiosity is everything. When we're curious, we continue to dive in, right, and learn
Yeah.
and discover. As you know, that's it's
Mm-hmm.
everything to this spiritual path, because it's unknown. And so
Mm-hmm.
the hips and the movements of the hips, it started to wake something up in me. It was like a cauldron starting to stir up wisdom within me. And a couple years later, I was in a relationship My relationship didn't work out. It just crumbled. And I mean, that's not a coincidence. It was my womb was calling something in for me to start tapping into this power of mine, to start
Yeah.
tapping into this wisdom and this knowing that I'm meant for more. I'm meant for that love, that real deep, soulful love that makes me feel safe and nourished
Mhm.
from within. But she
Yeah.
was calling me in to dive in to retrieve that medicine for myself. And so after
Mhm.
this relationship ended, I started to work with one of my spiritual teachers, and we started to work with the heart and opening the heart and releasing a lot of that anger and grief that I was feeling with my own mother and my father. And then I
Mhm.
then met my partner now. We've been together for over 7 years. And I started to listen. There was this calling in my womb that I had to
Mhm.
move. And within 3 months, I moved to Mexico, where he's from. And so I'm still living here in Mexico with
Yeah.
him. And I started to dive deeper. And I mean, and that's the beautiful thing. Every woman's story is different. Her pathway and how
Mhm.
she started to get there is different. This is why I know for yourself as well, we desire to bring this medicine and wisdom to women so they don't have to go through all the heaviness and the
Yes.
craziness, right, that we may have gone through to get there. But it's part of our story
Mhm.
and it needed to happen. And I'm grateful that
Yeah.
it happened. And
Yeah.
so I started to work with the womb, and I started to dive deeper into my pussy and retrieve so much from there. And I started to have visions with Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary. And I
Mm.
realized, oh, okay, this work, I've been doing this for centuries. I've been doing this for
Yeah.
lifetimes. And this is the time now that I'm being called to bring it back. And so
Yeah.
when I started to do this work and I started to work with some teachers, and I started to realize, you know what, I can actually channel this myself and see where this
Yeah.
leads me. And um,
Yeah.
I realized that this is so needed. The power of your womb is where you hold everything. It's where we create life. It's where we birth life. And then our pussy is the source, the portal to the divine. And she's been forgotten. She's been lost. We see her as something of such disgust. And
Right.
she's been sexualized, and we've been disconnected from her. And so when I do this work with women and they start to reconnect with her, they start to realize, oh, okay, I feel more myself here.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm starting to release things that I didn't even know was there. I mean,
Yeah.
we're always going through this work. I'm still releasing a lot of old wounds, and our yoni, our womb, they're so receptive, and they carry all of our
Mhm.
so much memory from this lifetime
Mhm.
and past lifetime, the memories of your mother, of your grandmother. We shared the womb together. And so
Right.
sometimes we're always getting so lost in the whys, the traumas of this, the traumas of that. This is so hard.
Mhm.
Let's dissect this. Let's dissect that. Sometimes we don't even know why we're holding this pain or why the trauma and wounds are there, because sometimes they're not even ours. And
Yeah.
these wounds, they're stored within our wombs until we actually start to tap into them and we start to release them and we start to trust the energy of the womb and the
Mhm.
mother, the great mother that lives within us, that we
Mhm.
have the power to transmute. The womb has the power to transmute these beautiful, will transmute these dark energies into beautiful, nourishing energy to
Yeah.
create our desires, to create a baby. And when we
Yeah.
connect that with our heart, chakra, with our
Yeah.
heart consciousness, then we are able to express these desires and express these gifts from a space of nourishment and love and clarity and respect. And I think that's also something that's missing in healing spaces, is this connection between pussy, womb, heart.
Right.
They're intertwined with one another. Yeah. And
And
so,
yeah,
yeah.
so cool. Go ahead.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, we don't realize how receptive the vagina really is, and how
Right.
much, how the emotions that she holds. So when we have an experience, whether it's a sexual experience, and we didn't
Mm-hmm.
honor our no, or when we
Mm-hmm.
watch something and something feels triggering, we all know that feeling. You know, when you watch
Yeah.
something and on a movie and it just, whether it's something to do with abuse or where you see a girl being mistreated sexually,
Yeah.
these get stored in our body. They
Mm.
get stored in our vagina,
Yeah.
in our womb,
Mm.
and she remembers. And then that's what
Yeah.
creates that tension, or maybe
Right.
pain during sex, or maybe we feel disconnected to what we want, to our desires, what we need.
Right.
But we always know what we want. We always know what we desire. We just have to open that portal, like the rose that we spoke about,
Yeah.
and create that softness to tap in.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's super interesting. Like, as you speak, I drop into places in my life, and I am an advocate for, we'll call it an advocate for erotic fiction, spicy romance novels. And I don't read them from a place of like pornography or from a place of like looking at it from that standpoint. I move within expression through the books. Like, how does this feel in my body to want to maybe have this experience or to hold this experience? And there's been some books that I'm just like, they're way too over here. And I'm like, okay, why is this? I'll use the word triggering. Why is this triggering for me? Like knife play, or to be chased down, in a really like almost not connected, intimate way, like more so like a vengeful energy. And so you just brought this up in connection with the imprints that it makes in our field. And I'm like, I'm good. I don't need like, okay, that book is done. Like I don't need to go into the rest of it. Like it just doesn't feel in this alignment. And it's the same thing with like the movies that you mentioned and all that kind of energy. And I'm like, that's why, because I don't desire this in my world, but I can honor it if other people are in that space of that's what they desire to experience. But yeah, so interesting that you brought that up. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is, as well, is when we think about these desires, and when I say desires, it doesn't always necessarily mean related to sex either,
Right. Of
but
course.
we can start to, if we want to dive into our sexual desires and fantasies, or even the way that we're showing up in sex, in sexual
Yeah.
experiences. Sex is it is the channel to your divinity, the way, your sexual energy. And so, well, for me, I'm going to say my experience before, when I was having sex, it was done from a place of misalignment. I
Yeah.
wasn't having sex from a place of groundedness and knowing my worth. I was
Yeah.
doing it from a place of thinking I was sexually liberated and
Mm-hmm.
having sex as a way to receive validation from men, because I
Yes.
learned from a very young age that my body is this vehicle to attract men. And so
Yeah.
from 17, I learned that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
crazy. So for me, it wasn't, I feel like women come from two spectrums. We either come from that
Mm-hmm.
place of overusing our sexuality as a way to
Yeah.
um, seem a certain way and very sexual and liberated and wild. I think I was in that category. And then we
Yeah.
have women, which a lot of women that do come into my spaces feel a lot of shame around their
Mm,
sexuality. And that's because
yeah.
there is so much fear around what that means and what it means for them to use their body in a certain way, or they have felt shamed around sexuality because of their upbringing, that it's sinful. There's so many
Yeah.
different reasons, but I feel like whatever extreme spectrum we fit into, it usually comes from a sense of a deep desire to be seen, a desire to feel
Yeah.
loved,
Yeah.
a desire to feel
Hmm.
accepted. And
Yes.
so when I was in these sexual experiences with men, I can honestly say that I was not honoring
Yeah.
my no. I would have sex because I was afraid to use my voice and say no.
Mm,
But my pussy would be, no, no,
yeah.
no. You are unsafe here. You don't feel good here. But
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Jessica who wore the mask, who wanted to look wild and free and so up for anything and juicy and, seductive, ignored that no and did it anyway. And after that, felt very depleted or felt
Mm,
um, not nourished, and men would walk away really feeling energized because
of course.
our sexual energy is like medicine for men.
Yeah.
I see my partner, he's like, oh, wow, I feel so, yeah, he feels tired after, like all men, but I see a sense of spark in him. He desires
Right.
to move forward. And I know it's because I've intentionally offered
Yeah.
him my juice, and
Yeah.
and it's because I feel safe to go to those spaces to be able
Yeah.
to share that part of me. So when
Yeah.
we're in these places of giving ourselves away in a way that doesn't feel, I'm not saying that you're disempowered if you're sexual and you're out there having sex. Not at all. But if you know
No.
deep in your body that there is something misaligned, that's a calling
Hmm.
from your
Yeah.
pussy that this is a time for you to check in and start
Yeah.
honoring that sacred no. Start honoring
Yeah.
your voice, start honoring your boundaries, start honoring
Hmm.
your heart here and choosing
Yeah.
love, the love that is sourced within. Yeah.
love I love all of this because you described your life like my life, and I'm at this point, like I said, right? I'm single and I haven't been in sexual relations for over a year. And I have a girlfriend of mine that keeps saying, just go have sex. Like, why don't you just go have sex? Da, da, da. And I was like, no, there's something that feels, because I desire to be held in that safety to actually express all of me. It's not about the sex. It's about the intuitive connection within that I desire to have with someone else, or hold it here until I find that someone else. Like, it's not about the orgasm. It's not about just going to have sex to have sex. And it's about the connection and the opening of this, that I can actually fully be in this relationship, all of me, and someone to hold that space to like call me forward so I can be just like the rose, open. And I know what that feels like because I've seen it in like my visions, and I've seen it in life, and I can hold it in my body and my physical form. And it's so interesting. And I'm like, I thank you again for the other confirmations that I've gotten over the last few weeks. Cause this was like last week. She's like, just go, like, why don't you just go da 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 da? And I was like, it's not about this, and it's about something else. And, going a year and a bit without, sexual relations as a single person. And I also have a high sex drive when I'm in relationships. Like I don't need it when I'm not, but when I am, it's like an igniter. And I'm just like, I want to hold this energy sacred. And I actually feel it to be that. and not in a diminishment way of like, I don't know, like, this kind of dynamic, but it's just like, it's something else. And I know you get that.
Yeah, totally. Yes, exactly. That's high priestessing right there, where you know that you're, yeah, yeah, this power of yours, it's not something that you desire. It's something to be cherished. And
Mhm.
hey, if you can, the thing is, what we also need to understand, well, I know you do, but for us women to understand is we don't need a partner to feel fulfilled, to
Right.
feel orgasmic, to feel pleasure. These are things that
Yeah.
we can source from within. We have this power. I mean, your your pussy is for that. Your pussy is also
Yeah.
for feeling into pleasure. And it doesn't necessarily mean as well that we have to sit there and self pleasure and orgasm every night and touch ourselves, but
Yeah.
we can feel the orgasmic aliveness in everything that we do. Right now I'm feeling orgasmically alive through our discussion, because it
Yeah.
happens in this connection with each other, our voices. It can happen just with your touch, and that feeling of just being so in this surrendered state and feeling your own presence and the deliciousness of life and seeing beauty around you. That's feeling into pleasure. And the more that we can open up to that and feel into that, into our own sensual aliveness, the more that we start to open up to another and receive another
Yeah.
intimately. And we realize, oh, this is actually very sacred. This is actually
Hmm.
me having a pleasurable experience with the divine, with spirit
Yeah.
herself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm with you there. I went through the same journey as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be
And
fun
real,
to
yeah,
see who steps in to this space with me too, right? So it's like, yeah, it's just like the curiosity is definitely around. So it's
yes.
cool.
And
Um,
staying in that
yeah,
frequency of trust as well,
yes.
right? That openness and trust, and yeah, and not, well, I love that you're not just settling as well, because
Mm-mm.
we could easily just settle. You could have anyone
Yeah,
you wanted to, but you also
yeah,
know that you have a lot to offer to your king, and
yeah,
yeah, he's there
yeah,
waiting for
yeah.
you. I know
I can't wait to meet
it.
him. I know, I can't wait to meet him. Okay, so we could probably talk forever. I just like we could. I know we could, and people would probably continue to
Absolutely.
listen to us for hours on end, just because just the flow moving through both of us, I think, is just, at least I've been having a great time. It's been like a
Oh, I
powerful
told you I felt
experience for me.
orgasmic.
Yeah, yeah. Like I
Yeah,
know. I'm like, I want to honor that too. Honoring. But in essence of timing for all parties aligned, I want you to just tell us, like, everything you gave to me will be in the show notes, all your links where people can connect to you and everything. But what do you have going on? Where can people dive in? And I know that you wanted to give a free offer out to the audience as well, which we'll have links for too. But I just want you to, wherever you feel called to share in your heart center now, let us know, like, what's going on in your field.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely drop the link for you for the 7-day program. And it's every day you receive beautiful, simple pleasure practice to do to start feeling connected with your own sensual aliveness. And each one builds on the other. So we have some beautiful visualizations, some sacred touch, some breath, some movement. And right now, I'm about to launch another round of Feminine Remembrance, Come Home to Yourself. So it's a 10-week group program around sacred sexuality, sensuality, pleasure, and magnetism, really, really dropping into this essence, this truth of you, to draw in what is meant for you. And that happens through
Yeah.
this alignment with love and your, um, yeah, connection with your womb and your pussy. So I've got that going on, and here and there I do some ceremonies. I'm actually nearly finished another program I've got. It's called Embody the Sacred Feminine, and that's just a
Mm,
self-paced course that you can do with different sensual movement practices that I've channeled and taken from my own samba journey, just to do some, we women love to dance and we love to feel connected with this erotic essence of ourselves.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a beautiful way to connect with this aliveness within. So Feminine Remembrance, Come Home to Yourself, runs twice a year. So that's one of
Mm,
my signature programs, which I love holding for women. Yeah.
yeah. I bet you do. And
Oh,
I just love everything about this whole conversation, and really grateful, Jessica, that you stepped in to like serve us today in this energy and all the divine connections you bring with you into the field too. But I just want to hand you the mic to speak whatever's on your heart to kind of close off. Like what else would you like to just say into the essence of the universal alignment today?
hmm. I think I'd like to just finish off with a little connection with the body.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much saying anything, just this feeling of to leave with that sense of embodiment and pleasure. So we can just notice your body right now. I'm just going to take you into just a little 2 minute. This just came to me, so why not? I'm going to roll with it.
Yeah, let's go.
Come into the body and just noticing your body, how your body is sitting in this moment. Notice if you're holding any tension in the belly. So bringing your awareness all the way down into your belly. We often hold our belly nice and tight. So take a deep belly breath into your belly, into your womb. Allow this life force energy, this air, this spirit of life to enter your belly, and just exhale, surrendering into your belly, into your womb space with your awareness here. And if it feels good for you, you can bring your hands to your belly, just bringing that sense of touch to let her know that you're listening. And see if you can just let your belly hang out a little more, and let your yoni, your pussy, soften a little more by just gently releasing her, feeling the connection of your pussy connected with the earth. And see if you can just rise your head a little more, chest opens, drop your shoulders, connecting with the heavens above, just knowing that you are the channel. Your body is this beautiful sacred temple that holds your soul, holds your spirit, and at the same time, you are always connected with the earth, the great mother of all. You are connected with the heavens, the grandfather sun, grandfather skies. And just being in this knowing, being in this connection, feeling your sacred touch, hands to belly, hands to womb. If you feel like cupping your yoni, you can. So just bringing your hands closer to your pussy, holding her a little bit, and just feeling into her. And if that feels too much, just know that you can bring your hands close to your heart or your womb. And we'll take one last deep breath in here through the nose, inviting that breath, feeling this breath of life flow down, trickle down into your womb, into your yoni, your pussy, and she receives this gift of life that is always present within you, holding this in your cauldron, in your power center. And we will exhale, rising the breath. It moves through your womb, through your heart, through your throat, to know that you are here to speak your truth with so much love and courage. Exhale out through the mouth and just drop a little further into your body. And we will leave it there, just knowing that you are a beautiful, divine soul.
Mm.
Give yourself a little smile, maybe a little hug.
Love it.
I think I'm just going
I
to
was like,
leave
oh
it
yeah,
there.
shoot. I know. I'm like, I'm leading a podcast. I got to come back, because I was like, I can float away. And I saw myself with my daughter and practicing at a young age, like that connection within herself. And I was like, so I was, when you were, I was like, I go, whoop, like you take me to breath work. Like I was at one yesterday and I just fly, like I'm like out going places. And I love that. So like, thank you. That was a beautiful, beautiful
Mm,
gift. Mm-hmm.
thank
So
you.
cool.
Thank you so much for this space. Thank you so much for your energy. Thank you so much for your radiance. I really appreciated and loved this conversation. And I trust that whoever needs to hear this will, receive
Yeah.
it with so much love and clarity. Mm,
Me too.
thank you
And I love
again.
that. And thank you. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Cause I always like to end the podcast by saying, if someone in your life could benefit from this conversation we had, share it out, tag us on Instagram, send it to your people, whatever that feels like for you, because the movement of the light warrior isn't a single movement like you've talked about already in community. It's us coming together to keep lighting each other as we move through in our own remembrance. So just encouraging you guys to do that. Share it out, tag us, do all the things. And I'm just really grateful, Jessica, for the openness of what we created together, just being in this portal way in this last hour and a bit together. So I'm grateful for you, grateful for the message, grateful for
Mm,
all that came through today to serve us. And we'll see you guys all again soon. So thanks again.
thank you.
Well, I think that whole podcast was actually recorded for me, but just so happy that you got to listen to it too. I just feel so deeply rooted with Jessica's mission on Earth and the power that this conversation holds for all of us. So whether you are a male in this world with daughters, with significant others, it's kind of like our responsibility as each individual to be able to step into this, to hold it, to be with it, to move within it. And just a powerful, powerful place to be. I am just so grateful for this whole entire conversation. When we hit stop on the recording, I was asking her about her ceremonies, and the next one I want to be a part of. I want to lean into more of this conversation, more of the purity within me. And if you choose to do the same, her information is in the show notes. Connect to her. I just felt like her and I have done lifetimes together, and it's like I found her in this life through this podcast. And I love the synchronicity of how this all plays out, and just so grateful for you, grateful for the guests, grateful for the messages, grateful for the downloads coming in. This has been a powerful, powerful year so far, starting off in January, and it just feels like aligned. So like I say to you guys all the time, if you are feeling the call, help us share it out, send it to a friend, give us a review, share it on social, tag us on Instagram, let us get the message of this into the world, because the more people in their power, the more people in their power. And this is where the shift and change actually happens. I'll see you guys all again soon.